In this video, we begin our discussion on Chapter 8, where, looking ahead, currently we're going through the theory of the firm in order to develop a framework to explain how firms make decisions through profit maximization, where this will yield us a richer explanation to product supply than what we encountered in Chapter 3, as well as set us up for partial equilibrium analysis, where we seek to examine the market for a single good or service, where the caveat being that we will consider varying market structures to see how price and quantity determination vary. With this in mind, in terms of the second half of the theory of the firm, we will focus on the firm problem, profit maximization, market equilibrium, and the shutdown condition, where with respect to today's discussion of the firm problem, we will consider some preliminaries to then discuss the firm problem, recall production as well as costs, to then define revenue and define profits. So to begin with our preliminaries, we know to explain how firms make decisions in terms of profit maximization, we must answer the following three questions. How does the firm produce goods and services? What cost does the firm incur with production? And how much does the firm generate with the sale of its goods and services? Where thus far we've addressed questions 1 and 2 in the first half of the theory of the firm, which only leaves us with answering question 3. But before doing so, let us recall what we know about firms. So to begin, our setup for firms overall is that our firm agents have wants in the form of profits, and they have resources in the form of the factors of production, which comprise land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship. We also know that they will make choices to transform their factors of production into goods and services to make themselves the best off possible in terms of profits, where this was formerly stated as the firm problem, that is, to maximize profits subject to the production constraints. Additionally, with respect to firms, we have also seen how they've produced goods and services as well as their cost structures, so let us recall those as well. In terms of production, firms will produce goods and services using their factors of production, where this relationship was expressed through the production function and had two major properties. The first being more inputs led to more output, as well as our second property being diminishing marginal returns. Where in terms of our production function, what this meant is where labor is on the horizontal axis and output in the form of cars cleaned is on the vertical axis. As more labor is used, more cars can be cleaned, and we can see this with our increasing production function. But each unit of labor is productive, but not as productive as the last unit. So we can represent this in terms of our marginal physical product with a positive but declining marginal physical product, which gives us diminishing marginal returns. Now, with respect to production, we know that factors of production are used in which firms will incur costs based off of the usage of these factors of production, where all the costs they incur will be reflected through total costs, that is, the sum of fixed and variable costs, where mathematically we have that representation, the sum of fixed and variable costs, where we know that total cost is going to be money flowing out of the firm, and that total cost will be non-zero when production is zero due to fixed costs, and that total cost will be increasing with output due to variable costs, where we have our graphical representation on the right, cost on the vertical, cars cleaned in terms of output on the horizontal. We see that total cost is non-zero when production is zero, and this is going to be due to our fixed costs. And we see that as output is increasing, total cost is increasing, and that's going to be due to our variable costs. We have also seen with respect to our discussion of costs that the rate of change for a firm's cost structure will come in the form of marginal cost. That is, the increase in total cost associated with a 1 unit increase in output produced, where mathematically this is just going to be the slope of the cost function, or in other words, the change in total cost divided by the change in production, where overall marginal cost will be upward sloping due to diminishing returns, and we can observe this in terms of our marginal cost graph on the bottom left, where cost is on the vertical, cars cleaned is on the horizontal in the form of our output, and we see that it's increasing from points B to C and C to D. And our explanation was that the change in total cost is going to be positive, and it's also going to be increasing due to more factors being used, while the change in production is going to be positive and increasing, which is our denominator, and it's going to be the case that the numerator is growing faster than the denominator, which is going to account for that upward sloping marginal cost curve. So then, with our recollection of the setup for firms, what we know in terms of production and costs, let us now address our remaining question at hand. That is, how much does the firm generate with the sale of its goods and services? A firm will bring in money based upon the amount of goods and services it sells at a particular price point, a concept that we can define as total revenue. That is, the price of a good multiplied by the quantity sold in a period, where mathematically total revenue is just going to be price times quantity, where this is going to be money flowing into a firm from a sale on goods and services produced, where additionally it will have a rate of change, much like total cost did in the form of marginal cost, where the rate of change for total revenue will be marginal revenue. That is, the additional change in total revenue that results from a 1 unit increase in quantity sold, and mathematically it's going to be the change in total revenue divided by the change in quantity sold, and as mentioned is the slope of total revenue. However, observe that we did not go through an example in terms of total revenue and marginal revenue yet, and that's going to be due to, in order to determine total revenue and marginal revenue for a firm, we must know how they price their goods and services, where firms will price their goods and services based upon the market structure they are operating in, where market structure is going to be the number and relative sizes of firms in an industry. Thus, in order to examine and determine revenue for a particular firm, we must know their market structure, where market structure will be a topic that we'll be addressing in following chapters, and we'll go through an example of calculating total revenue and marginal revenue given a particular market structure in our following video. So then, lastly, now that we've observed that costs is money flowing out of the firm and total revenue is going to be money flowing into the firm, we can use these two concepts to then define profits, which is going to be the want of the firm, where now we'll define profits as the difference between total revenue and total costs, where mathematically that's going to be total revenue minus total costs, or in other words, profits is going to be money flowing into the company versus money flowing out of the company, where in terms of profits, as mentioned, it's the want of the firm and encourages entrepreneurs to begin a firm in the first place, as well as encourages existing firms to enter new product markets, and overall provides incentives for firms to produce goods and services that consumers demand. But a last thing to consider is that they are not guaranteed by the firm at all. So with this in mind, where we'll pick up in our next video is we'll consider an example firm, imbue them with the market structure, and then develop a rule for profit maximization, which will also allow us to go through a graphical example in terms of total revenue as well as marginal revenue for that firm, since we'll know their pricing strategy.